So I never really get the time to show you where Openpilot's at. I'm just always driving, which is obviously why I have Openpilot. And I'm also, basically, if I'm not driving, I'm working. I got this car at 15 kilometers about 3 months ago, and it took me about 4 weeks or so to get Openpilot working on the first Kia / Hyundai. And since then, it's done pretty much all the driving. So at about 5,000 kilometers or 5,500 kilometers was when I began having this car drive itself. And since then, I've basically left it drive. So you can see there, that's a corner that they've obviously put arrows on because I think it's sharp, and Openpilot drives it just fine. And these are rather average roads where the lines are horrendous, and you'll see that despite how bad it is, Openpilot can still do an okay job. Obviously, generally I would have grabbed the steering wheel there just to stop it from offsetting the wrong way, but as you can see, you can trust it. It's really not that bad. The vertical video makes sense so that you can actually see the road and the steering wheel at the same time. As much as I hate people that do vertical videos, I've actually got a practicality reason, so I don't care. Live with it. So here we've got another corner coming up, which has got its arrows. I'm behind a truck, it's not really doing the speed limit, but that's beside the point. So another nice sharp corner, and you'll see that Kia just drives. It really doesn't have trouble. Openpilot sees the lines and Kia just drives. We don't have the issues of a lot of makes where they don't have enough torque, they got laggy actuators, blah blah blah. They're all things for the cheap companies, not the good ones. So we're doing pretty good. And I've done nearly 3 or 4 hours driving without needing to correct it, apart from things like overtaking lanes and stopping at stoplights. So you never see a really long drive from me without disengagements because I do need to get involved. Now the other one is, this is the community build. There's a few things that I've got that I disagree with comma on, and that's things like when I put a blinker on, that Openpilot will disengage. So you can see that we're wandering off because the blinker's on. So I'll bring it back, and then when the blinker comes back, well, when the blinker turns off, it will begin to steer again. And that's so that you're not fighting it when you're changing lanes. It's obviously not a requirement, I just don't like fighting the system when you don't need to. So I just disable on blinker. The other one is that if I put my foot on the accelerator and I start to accelerate, you'll see that Openpilot doesn't cancel and it still steers. I don't actually see a practical reason for disabling Openpilot when you put your foot on the accelerator. It's very, very annoying, especially when as you're accelerating and you get up near speed and you like flick on the cruise control and it immediately cancels it because, you know, you've still got your foot on the accelerator. It's a very, very annoying and dumb feature, so we killed that as well. And there's other little things here and there that we change, but for the most part they're the ones that you're going to notice if you run on the community build rather than the public build. So here we are at a nice low speed. We are traveling at 40 because they're doing work on the side of the road. We'll keep the phone out of vision because I shouldn't really be doing this while I'm driving, but that's what we do. So we're steering at all speeds. We could come to a dead stop and take off again, and the steering's pretty good. Now this is running the community build like I mentioned, and it works beautifully. If I was to go to stock system, this is thanks to somebody else, James T in the community. If I unplug Eon, it immediately goes back to the factory system. So I've kind of got everything dangling again because I've been making changes, but that's beside the point.
Railway crossing ahead.
Yeah, if I unplug the Eon, then we forward the factory camera. Now there's a couple minor changes that I've got that isn't pushed to the public, and that's that icon does not show up. I'm testing again, having the idea of having both factory and Eon available by simply the button down there, whatever you want to call it. If I push that button, then the idea is that we're going to turn on the factory system and disable the Openpilot system. I don't need an indicator there to green to tell me that it's steering. I've got an indicator there to tell me that it's green and it's steering. I don't need both. So when it's green, it's going to be on the factory system. When it focus, when we got a green or white icon there, we're on factory, and when I don't, I'm on Openpilot. And you should see that in community soon. When I say soon, I mean soon. Whether I keep that idea or not, I don't know. I might end up due to lane keep, because I do want to see if I can make departure warning work. So you can see right now we've got no lanes being detected and blah blah blah. What I might end up doing is needing to put that back in so I can have lane departure warning as well, but we'll see. I'm not too fussed about it. I mean, the lane departure warning has more false alerts than, you know, Openpilot does in getting out of the lane, so it's kind of a pointless feature. I've still got everything like, you know, emergency braking, high beam assist, which doesn't work. Emergency braking, if you trust it's not going to work and you're going to crash and you're going to die, just don't trust those features. They're there for people that can't drive, and if you can't drive, you shouldn't be in a car. So just learn to drive. Don't trust safety features that don't work. And I know you can claim they do work, but realistically, if you've found out they do work, you probably shouldn't be driving either. So here's a bit of a shitty corner. It's fairly sharp, and it didn't quite take it well, but either way, we still made it around it. And the reason it didn't take it well wasn't so much a lack of torque, that's more so Openpilot struggling with the road. And as you can see, this is a rough road, like it's garbage. And that does occasionally cause a little bit of skewing of the lanes, but generally not enough to worry about. So there's the... Oh, I can't even hold the phone. It's so rough, so rough. Rubbish roads, but hey, that's what Australia's about. Rubbish roads, stupid speed limits, dumb laws, and nowhere to charge your car if you get an EV. That's Australia. So I might get around this one last sweeping bend. This is definitely not something that Openpilot is meant to do. I'm pretty sure that they'll complain that I've even shown this happening. But anyway, here we go. So the truck's slowing down to a reasonable speed, one that I'm actually going to let... I'm going to do nothing, because he's gone at a good pace. So you can see here that I'm driving around this entry to the highway. Didn't do a real great job, but the point is that it can do it, and that's a rather sharp corner. This is about as fast. 60k is about as fast as you want to take that corner, and we've merged in on the lane with lines missing and blah blah blah. You guys have really got to try Openpilot if you don't have it. Get it working on your Kia, get it working on your Hyundai. If you got something else, sell it and buy a Kia or a Hyundai and get it working, because you're not going to regret it. But 8,000 kilometers or so I've had this driving.
Left lane ends, merge right ahead.
And there's really no reason for you not to be trusting one. I mean, you still got to be a driver, watch the road, take over when things go wrong. But I don't know if you remember what it was like when you had a car that didn't have cruise control and you had to constantly be monitoring the speed, accelerator. It mightn't be much, it's kind of nothing, but it's still something you need to constantly concentrate on. And when you get cruise control, it's so much better.
Please check speed limit ahead.
Well, this is the same. This is literally the same. Except that now we're not talking about the accelerator, we're talking about the steering. And the result is that when you're
crossing ahead.
When you're doing long trips, and say you're constantly doing a 3 or 4 hour trip once or twice a day like I am, the fatigue at the end of the day is so much less. It is so much safer to have a system like this, because you end up, well, one, less fatigued, which means you're safer on the road, you're paying more attention on the road, and you will get distracted. Drivers do get distracted for whatever reason, and if anyone says I don't get distracted, they are lying, and that's all there is to it, they are lying. So for the people that aren't lying, they will know that occasionally they drift off the lane. Like there was a car just there that wandered off the side of the road as he was driving into a lower speed. And why? Probably because he was checking his speed limit to see if he was speeding. And that's a simple fact. He looked down, seen what speed he was doing, looked up and gone, oh shit, I'm driving off the road. Well, you don't need to worry about driving off the road when you do that. It's just safer. It is safer because you've got another assistant there helping you, and you won't be as fatigued, which means you'll be safer when you are watching the road, when you aren't watching the road, so on. So anyway, this is the Kia Sorento on the Emitex Openpilot community branch. This is what you can expect, and this is what everyone should expect. And the most embarrassing part is that you can't buy a car that does this out of the factory. I mean, there may be the Tesla. I'll have a Tesla soon, and we'll see what it actually does like in comparison, because we're waiting for them to get to Australia, which could take forever, but I've got my reserving for my Model 3, so as soon as that's available, I'll be nabbing one of those, and we'll actually be able to compare it to something else. And as far as I'm aware, these are the only two not fake Openpilot or autopilots out there, self-driving cars out there. But at this stage, for the average person, this is all you can get, and let's be honest, this is really all that you need. I'll do a better video one day soon. I'll show you driving on some more curvy roads, bad roads. Like, these aren't great roads, these are good little examples as to how it drives. There's a bit of traffic around, the lanes disappear at times, lines disappear, it's rough. They've been narrow, they've had small shoulders, large shoulders. It's just a good bit of everything. Like, really, do you need more? This whole video which has been, what, 11.5 minutes, I've done nothing. I touched the steering wheel once because I hit the 5-minute timer, and I let it go for about 6 minutes, so we'll be seeing that again in a minute to tell me to touch it again. That's all I've done. And I know it's meant to be a 3-minute time, but 3 minutes is just impractical. We're in Australia, we don't really care about monitoring the passenger, but comma seem to think that we should be monitoring the passenger if we're not in America. That's backwards, that's wrong, but that's their logic at this stage. So while we're monitoring the passenger, we really need to be still monitoring the steering wheel, and as such, 3 minutes is a bit short, so we pulled it out to 5. There's no point in trying to encourage us to monitor the passenger, because if the passenger isn't watching the road, it's not going to make the trip any less safe. Hopefully they realise that soon and fix it, but until then, this is what we have. And I've got to grab the steering wheel. So there we go. Alright guys, I will see you again.